And good evening, welcome to Match of the Day, this time coming to you from Olympic Park in Melbourne. It's a beautiful warm evening here and it promises to be a very, very good game indeed. It's the final of the Johnny Walker Cup, the pre-season competition to the NSL, the league season of course kicking off next week. The match is between the Melbourne Knights, who did so well last season to be pipped at the post in the grand final, against Heidelberg, the early risers of the new NSL season. They were nowhere last season. This season they have already knocked out some big guns to get to the final. Well, with me for the first time this season is Johnny Warren. Johnny, good to see you again on Match of the Day. Now, Melbourne Knights we expected this from, but not from Heidelberg. They knocked out a couple of big ones early on. And when a team is on such a roll as that, psychologically, they are a very tough nut to crack, aren't they?
A traditional final. The underdog Heidelberg, nobody expected them finishing last year. They were beaten 4-0 and 5-0 by Melbourne Knights, but really have surprised everyone. And as you say, when they're on a roll, anything is possible, particularly in a cup final. The youth experience of, the youth, I should say, of Heidelberg against the experience of Melbourne Knights and the goal scoring potential. And for those reasons, I do fancy Melbourne Knights. I think they have the experience with the likes of Biskic in midfield and Viduka and Spiteri in front. They just seem to have a little bit more going for them, and you feel that that will win the day for them.
Well, the Melbourne Knights certainly need some sort of trophy, don't they, for their efforts. John, thank you. I'll let you join Andy in the commentary box. Let's go through the lineups, and there are some changes to this Melbourne Knights lineup to the one you've been used to. Let's go through that. Frank Juric in goal, Buljubasic, David Cervinski. His brother is injured today. Horvat, Silic, Biskic, Viduka, Ljubo, Lapsansky is a new face. Markovski, Spiteri is a new signing, of course, and Daniel Tiatto, the number 19, is a man to watch for as well. I'll let Andy and John tell you more about him. Looking at the Heidelberg lineup, one change, of course, Karapatsos, who was sent off last Wednesday, is suspended. The team is Miller in goal. That's a change as well. A change of goalkeepers: Georgiadis, Koutos, Watson, Scott, Vasiliadis, Ardone, Karapatsos, Vlahos, Koutos, who was such a danger man last Wednesday, and the veteran Peter Tsolakis. Well, it's a beautiful warm evening here. As I've said, the stage is set for a fine final. Let's go to our commentator, Andy Pascalidis.
Eugene Brazale gets us underway here, the Johnny Walker Cup final between the Melbourne Knights in the red shirts and Heidelberg United. The Knights have been decimated in recent times with the loss of several key players because of injury. That's one of the new stars. Joe Spiteri made his debut during the week in the semi-final after a somewhat difficult period for him in regards to his transfer from the Parramatta Eagles side. The original fee he asked was $60,000. It dropped down to $17,000. David Miller makes his debut for Heidelberg against his old club. Miller, of course, played in 3 grand finals for the Knights. Horvat made his Socceroo debut against South Africa just before this year's World Cup. Markovski blocked by Ardone, and Biskic, a rare blemish by him. Vasiliadis taken out by Zoran Markovski. This young Heidelberg team knocked out Marconi in the opening round, 2-0 over 2 legs. They thumped Brisbane 5-0 and came back from 2-1 down last Wednesday night in Sydney to defeat Sydney Olympic 3-2. Scott free kick deflects off Spiteri. Biskic. In there was Karapatsos. Josip Biskic, his 14th season. And for young Frank Juric, he's played about 12 games in the National League. Juric, you might recall, was in the Young Socceroo squad and was the number 2 to Vince Matassa. He's got the first grade spot this year. Big clearance on by Viduka. Back there, Angelo Koutos is being chased. And chased by Tiatto. Danny Tiatto. Cervinski away. Viduka had a strong game against South Melbourne. They came back from 1-0 to win 2-1. Flags up, though, against Biskic. No arguments there at all. For the Melbourne Knights, this is their second cup appearance. They're so desperate for success. As I mentioned earlier, 3 grand finals which haven't yielded any success for them. And John, just an interesting thing about the cup itself. 3 Melbourne teams in the semi-finals out of 4. That's perhaps going to tell us a few stories already this season.
Well, the Cup traditionally hasn't been a Melbourne domain, has it? They very seldom won it. But looking ahead to the season, Andy, I agree. I feel that the Melbourne and Adelaide clubs are going to be the ones to beat this year. And the 3 out of 4, as you say, in the semi-finals perhaps is an indication of that. But a quiet start so far. It is to be expected. The weather is quite oppressive out there for the players, so you would think the instruction early on by both coaches would be let's just settle down, let's not overcommit too much too early, let's feel the opponent out a little bit before we start risking anything.
Well, the rumour and speculation down here today was that the Knights will win this and win it comfortably. Heidelberg coach Mike Juric had a bit of a laugh about that. He likes to be the underdog. It certainly works in favour of his team. He's got a very young squad. 5 of the 11 out there are 20 years of age or under. One of them, of course, is Georgiadis, the club junior. Koutos with a header away. And nicely played. The deep ball was there for Silic. He can't keep it in, though. That's fine work by the Knights. Mark Silic, a goal scorer in that victory against South Melbourne in the semi-finals. Blahos scored the first against Olympic last Wednesday. The young Socceroo gets it inside for Michailakopoulos. Ardone. Play on, the referee says. Silic. Viduka trying to break. Oh, was there a body check? There was. Richard Watson, he might get booked for this because Viduka would have been clear. It is a booking. The young West Australian goes in the book here in the 5th minute of play.
And it's a fair decision, Andy. It's a professional foul. Viduka free. He was impeded, and Eugene Brazali giving the correct decision there. One of the problems for Heidelberg in this match is to be caught square at the back. They were the other night against Olympic. It was a splendid win for them. But in a defensive sense, they were caught too square at the back, like they were then.
Deep looking ball, and a bit too deep, though, for Horvat. Big Stephen Horvat, just 23 years of age. Already a Socceroo. He's really established himself in that defence. Silic in there. Spiteri can't get away from the captain, Alan Scott. He's in the Olyroos squad, Joe Spiteri. And Eddie Thompson very impressed with his form overseas. That was the tour, of course, where Adrian Cervinski was injured. And he's got a groin problem, Cervinski. And Spiteri asked the question, and I agree with him. There was certainly a question to be asked there. You look at this Melbourne Knights side, John, you've got Ollie Pondolyak out with a hamstring injury. Andrew Marth hoping to be fit for the first round next Sunday against Brisbane. Diamichis is about 3 or 4 weeks away, and Adrian Cervinski 3 or 4 weeks away as well. That takes such a lot out of this team.
Well, it does, but it does indicate that the depth that they've got, and the reason that they minor premiers last year is that they have depth to be able to overcome injury and suspension. And it's a prerequisite to looking at championship aspirants is the depth of their squad, and Melbourne Knights certainly have that.
Cervinski played in the midfield during the week, back in the defence. No foul given, play waved on. The referee made his call quickly, and it might work in Heidelberg's favour. Inside is Tsolakis, Biskic on his tail. And these two campaigners have enjoyed some good duels over the years. Josip Biskic, a former player of the year. And he's played it in 250-odd games in this competition. Georgiadis still has possession and gets the cross in. Koutos is strong in the air, so is Horvat. Ardone. Good work by Silic. He did put the challenge in. Koutos to Scott, playing against his old club. He came across from West Adelaide. Now Tsolakis! Oh, that's a good shot from the Gus man, Tsolakis. Just over 8 minutes in, and Peter Tsolakis, we know about his lethal shot, John.
Good shot, good save, and if Heidelberg are to cause an upset today, Tsolakis is going to have a big influence on the game, and his long-range shooting like that is a big factor in Heidelberg's favour.
Georgiadis goes out of play, though.
He's a player who impressed me the other night in the semi-final, Andy Georgiadis, against Sydney Olympic. And that's the first foray we've seen from him down that right flank. And Heidelberg are going to need a lot more of it. With playing two players in the central striking position as they are, with Michailakopoulos and Vlahos, you really need width coming from your defensive players, and Georgiadis can supply that on the right.
Cervinski. Scott clears it, but straight to the Slovakian. And now the danger for Heidelberg. Was he clipped from behind on the turn? It doesn't go in. The chance goes begging, in fact, really, as Heidelberg try to put pressure on their opponents. The first time the Knights have looked threatening, it was really the time that you might have expected them to score. It looked like, in fact, Viduka might have been clipped as he tried to weave his way through. Here's young Andrew Vlahos. Karapatsos. And now Danny Tiatto, 3-on-3. Viduka up there. Biskic is there. Spiteri's made a deep run on the right, but it's too close to the keeper. Miller came quickly. The match now starting to open up. Some of the players starting to take some risks that they haven't done in the first 20 minutes. Nil-nil scored the 22nd minute. Let's cross now to Les Murray.
Thanks, Andy. Just gauging the reaction, the early reaction from the coaches, and a little bit of problem for the Melbourne Knights defence, as you saw there. Mirko Bazic is not happy at all about that. He said the defence is a little bit too nervous for him, and he expected a lot more by now. Mike Juric, on the other hand, is quite happy. He said it's a cup final, the teams are feeling each other out, and he's not worried about the three-man forward line either. He said he prefers that because it gives him a bit more room in defence, in midfield, I should say. But Mike, the happier of the two coaches at the moment.
And while Les was just giving us the updates from the benches, Tsolakis was fouled. And it's the fourth free kick for Heidelberg in this sort of range. Well, this time Tsolakis was looking for Angelo Koutos on the right. He wasn't ready, I think, was what he said there. But this game, the midfield particularly, could rest between Tsolakis and Biskic. Their contributions here. As Miller comes flying out high into that stand on the far side. Transferred from the Knights for $15,000. Played over 100 games in the league. Buljubasic with a throw-in. Suffered a bad injury here in the playoff matches last season. Viduka scored 7 goals in the qualifying series. The young Socceroos on their way to the World Championships early next year in Nigeria, although there's some talk that might switch to Egypt. Viduka was saying he wasn't really happy with his form over there. I've had a look at all the games in full. He scored 7 goals and he played 4 games. It's not a bad strike rate. Could have got a few more, but he looked the part in the semi-final against South Melbourne last Thursday. Midway through the half, no goals yet. Heidelberg, they won the Cup 2 seasons ago in Sydney. The Knights, they lost their only chance back in 1984 against Newcastle. Here's Spiteri, part of that winning Parramatta team in the Cup last season. Ardone, the foul, that you could say that could be a booking too. Lapsansky is the player who went down. They've got some choices here. Horvat, Viduka, Biskic. That's the player of the year into the wall. There's time there for Biskic. The curler. Again, just a tad too deep. Up they go. Koutos gets the header on. No one up there for Heidelberg. Markovski. On by Vlahos. Koutos. Vasiliadis across for Ardone. Good play by the midfielder. Vlahos to Tsolakis. The cross isn't a bad one. It's on for Heidelberg. The shot, it was a hard one for Koutos. He was trying to get it on his right. And Juric had it well covered.
Well, the impressive thing for Heidelberg is Ardone in midfield is creating so much. Tsolakis has so much room to move, which he's enjoying, and they set this opportunity up.
Vlahos couldn't take advantage while Cervinski was on the ground. And Biskic, he's always got at least 2 players around him when he's in possession. Scott drops back to the left side of the defence. Spiteri's free. Scott will have to chase him. Here comes Spiteri. Spiteri with a chance of the goal! The goal for Joe Spiteri! A superb run! 32 minutes into the game. Joe Spiteri gives his new club the lead here in the Cup final.
What a fabulous ball from Steve Horvat, though. Andy, a 50-metre pass, just cut that defence. Great run from Spiteri and great finish. And it's amazing, isn't it, just when you think that Heidelberg is starting to take over the game. Look at that ball from Horvat. Beautiful volley.
Scott was involved in the incident that led to this goal, so he was out of position. He was always in trouble. He knew Spiteri had made a top run, and that was a superb finish. Heidelberg, the deep ball across. Vasiliadis. Karapatsos was under pressure. He still goes through. In there was Horvat. The long one for Viduka. Watson there in cover. The young man, Richard Watson, he's had some big tasks in this competition. He's had to mark Marshall Soper, Kimon Theodoros and Rod Brown, and he kept those 3 players scoreless, with Heidelberg not conceding a goal in their first 3 cup games. And now Heidelberg's opportunity, and and smashing it against the crossbar. The young Socceroo, Andrew Vlahos. What a comeback from Heidelberg. The game has certainly awoken in the last 4 or 5. Young Andrew Vlahos has impressed me in the games I've seen him play. Tsolakis, there wasn't enough on for that. Vlahos would have been free. And the referee in the thick of the action there again as Viduka went down. Koutos was there. But have a look at this, John. Vlahos had the keeper gone and the crossbar saves the Knights. Viduka playing it on for Spiteri. He's got the last line. Now Silic, Viduka on his left. Still Silic. And big Richard Watson, the boy from Sereno in Western Australia. Joined the Burgers last December. The through ball for Vlahos. And the ball inside. No one in there except for Mikhailov. Was too deep. Last 5 minutes in this first half. 1-0 to the Knights. The goal to their new signing, Joe Spiteri. In the 32nd minute, and just a couple of minutes later, Andrew Vlahos struck the crossbar. Spiteri not happy with the decision. Bit of both ways, I thought there, John.
Yeah, I thought he was justified to complain. If anything, he was fouled against.
Karapatsos, Biskic in. I think the players will be relieved for the half-time break. The match starting in very hot and humid conditions. Ardone, look at this. It went over the top of Buljubasic. Georgiadis is there. He can't get the cross in though. And Vinko is just slotting it on for Lapsansky. And intercepted by Watson. Well, he might have been tempted to go himself. And here's the chance. And it's going to roll in, or is it? Horvat away. Vlahos was the player inside, and the cross, a woeful one, really. Vlahos can't believe it. Well, you could say he's probably deserved a goal on what he's done after his team had conceded one. Cervinski put enough pressure on there, and Horvat covered. Just the big toe of David Cervinski saving the Knights.
Well, Heidelberg look back on this first half, and the ball really hasn't rolled kindly for them. That was one such incident. We had the shot against the crossbar. We've had some splendid long-range shooting, which has brought the best out of Juric. And on points, Andy, you'd have Heidelberg maybe just ahead, but of course in our game that doesn't count. And it's 1-0 to Melbourne Knights, but Heidelberg can be well pleased with their first half performance, and they need more of the same in the second. Here's that change that you intimated earlier would be on, and I don't think it's going to upset Melbourne Knights terribly. In fact, I think it's a good move for them. Buljubasic is injured, normally likes to go forward, but his role today has been a marking one in the centre of the defence, and Kovacevic on now will be able to adopt that role quite comfortably.
Well, the sad thing, John, is that he joins Ollie Ponolyak, Adrian Cervinski, Andrew Marth and Fausto Diamichis on the injured list. That's now 5 experienced first-grade players on the injured list. What do you think of that new player, Lubomir Lapsansky?
Lapsansky looks good. I think it's always hard, Andy, when there's so many changes in the teams, which there have been in the early part of the season. It's hard to pass opinion, but he has all the skills. I think if there's any criticism, not of him, but of the Knights as such, is that they are not so far in the form that we know they're capable of, and certainly not in the form that they were this time last year.
In the Cup, they got away with a 3-2 aggregate win against the Zebras after losing 2-0 in the first game, and they got up against New South Wales under-23 side who came in for the Newcastle team. We got up 3-2, and then the 2-1 semi-final result. The Burgers finished down the bottom of the league last season, just 3 wins. And so far in the Cup, of course, they've been able to win 3 of their 4 games. Their second leg against Marconi was 0-0. They'd won 2-0 away from home. They'll have high hopes with some key players still to come. Jimpetika, Sabasad, Milan Blagojevic. And let's not forget that they've got Brian McNichol and Danny Gnijidic on the bench as well. Markovski in there ahead of Vasiliadis. There was Tiatto. Free kickers. Yes, it's against Heidelberg. Playing injury time now. There won't be too much for that. Next week, Steve Horvat's team, the Knights, they play the Brisbane Strikers in the first round of the National League. On Sunday, they're playing at home. And Heidelberg play the big derby game against South Melbourne, the last game at Middle Park. That should be a full house. As Miller's clearance signals the end, rather, of the first half. The first half where the Knights led 1-0. Joe Spiteri, that was a splendid strike. And we've seen some good goals already in the Cup competition too, haven't we, John?
We have, then that kept up the standard. A splendid volley after a brilliant through ball from Steve Horvat. But for me, Heidelberg didn't give anything away in that first half. They did as well as Melbourne Knights, if not better in terms of goal-scoring opportunities. And I know Mike Juric at half-time will be on for more of the same in the second half from them, if they're to cause what we would believe is an upset here and beat the Knights today.
Half-time here, the Johnny Walker Cup final. The Melbourne Knights 1, Heidelberg United 0.
Get it on, all switched on, Epson. Inkjet printers, superfine lasers, give us Epson. Epson are the most switched on.
Thrills and excitement of the World Cup USA 94 are now yours to keep. Choose from great World Cup superstars, the top 50 goals of all time, the story of the World Cup USA 94, Brazil, the road to glory, the dream team, and the greatest goals of World Cup USA 94. Don't miss all the action of this great sporting event. Out now on video.
Imagine having to fight for every breath you take. Now you know what it's like to suffer from a major killer of all children and teenagers in Australia, cystic fibrosis. We need your help to find a cure, but we need it now. We can't hold our breath forever.
This week, the movie show has it all. Stallone and Stone together at last in The Specialist. Chess, made exciting in Searching for Bobby Fischer. And we talked to star Susie Amos about her role as a man in The Ballad of Little Joe.
She was able to find a sense of freedom through masquerading as a man. She was able to find freedom as a woman.
An atmospheric movie show, 7:30 Wednesday, SBS.
Pour l'instant, je suis chauffeur de taxi la nuit. Je préfère la nuit. Comme ça, je passe le jour avec Julie.
Jack and Julie are lovers by day. By night, she walks the streets of Paris.
Elle l'accueille comme d'habitude, avec désir, joie et émotion.
But Julie is lonely. Enter Josip. Now the triangle is complete.
Il ne fallait surtout pas s'endormir, surtout pas se laisser prendre par le lever du jour.
Night and day, 9:30 Monday.
The Melbourne Knights 45 minutes away from securing their first cup victory. The Johnny Walker Cup final, they're leading 1-0 against Heidelberg United. They've made a change. Gnijidic is on. The strikers, they've got Karapatsos and Vlahos also up there. Remains to be seen what sort of role Andrew Vlahos will have, as Georgiadis is under some pressure. Ardone, who came to Heidelberg after trialling with a second division club in Spain. Possible move there fell through. And the linesman, Gordon Dunster, the #1 linesman in the world. That's his ranking. He's the senior linesman here. Let's find out exactly what happened in the dressing rooms at half-time. Here's Les Murray.
Thank you, Andy. Michael Juric has made... he's quite happy, actually, about the situation. They're well in the game, as of course they are. They hit the bar in the first half, didn't have any major problems, but he has made a change. He wants an extra striker. So Vasiliadis has gone off, as you will have noticed, and young Gnijidic has come on, who's going to be an extra striker, and Vlahos is going to be pushed out wide as a midfielder come striker. So that's the only change so far. Down from the sidelines, an extra striker for Heidelberg.
That'll certainly make a difference to Heidelberg, but they've got to do a bit more work in the midfield now. And you were pleased with what Ardone had done?
Very impressed in the first half, Andy. Good use of the ball, always available to try and build it up, switching the point of attack all the time. And he impressed me in the first half. The effect of a more positive approach by them is necessary. 45 minutes to go is a long time, but it's not there to waste. And Kovacevic there coming into the centre of the defence is a change, of course, just before half-time for Melbourne Knights. They need Georgiadis, #2 here, more in the game, Heidelberg. He's an excellent overlapping fullback. Did it brilliantly against Olympic. We haven't seen much of him in that capacity here tonight. And that is necessary if Heidelberg are going to get back in the match.
Tsolakis, along with Alan Scott, the most experienced player in this team. That was a dangerous looking corner. Donny likes it, and it had to be cleared away. He gets it back in. Down they go, the hasty clearance away. Georgiadis in cover for Heidelberg. And he sprayed it wide. He was intending to play it to Vlahos on the left. Some news also, the transfer of Buljubasic, the loan has been set at $7,500, the loan fee to his club in Europe. It should be sealed tonight. They can expect Jim Patikas hopefully in 2 weeks, and Abassar, depending on his commitments, probably about 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, you look at those 3 players, Andy, and the likes of McNichol to come back, who's injured at the moment. And early days, but the wooden spoon certainly doesn't look like it'll be Heidelberg's this year.
Karapatsos and David Cervinski got there first. Scored a great header against Olympic in the semi-final to make it 2-2, and he chested the 3rd goal in. Tsolakis. Great take by Juric, always his. The deft touch by Viduka. Kovacevic. In there was Georgiadis. Just 19 years of age. One of many youngsters being given a chance in this Cup series. Ardone. Koutos. Vlahos. And the ball for Tsolakis. Was thinking about taking it on. Georgiadis bending it around. That's a good move from Heidelberg, starting all the way back in their own half.
It's all or nothing for them, isn't it, Andy? And the likes of Georgiadis coming forward now, starting to put more men into attack, is starting to pay dividends. They're the better-looking side, for want of a better word, at this stage, taking the initiative to Melbourne Knights, who again really haven't got going despite their lead.
Always a tough ask for big Richard Watson there. And Les has got a further update from the benches.
Andy, just a quick diagnosis on Vinko Buljubasic. He's got a torn hamstring. It's not good news at all. He'll be out for a while.
Jeez. What a blow to the Knights. Vinko Buljubasic joins the other key players on the injured list. There's a deft touch on. And Lapsansky, or rather, sorry, it was Tiatto in there. Both similar in build. Biskic. Well, the keeper was coming and he's been punished. Big Stephen Horvat. Where were the markers in the centre of the defence there? Always a tough one for the keeper to get to, and Horvat, he grabs the second goal. The Knights have taken a hold now, really. The best time for them to score.
Beautiful deep corner from Biskic. Well headed by Horvat, but big question mark, Andy, on the defending of Heidelberg. There's no challenge, there is no marking. Here it is, it's very deep. And hardly a challenge on Big Steve.
Two-0 to the Knights. The big Socceroo gets a goal in the Johnny Walker Cup final.
Here we are, Andy, saying that the Melbourne Knights really haven't put it together yet. It's nothing like the team that we came to know so well last year, but they're leading 2-0, and probably indicates what they're capable of when they start to play well. But Horvat got in both goals, well headed the second one, and of course the first one setting up with that beautiful 50-metre pass. Already in the Socceroos squad, and big things predicted for Steve Horvat. And giving a couple of indications here tonight why people rate him so highly.
Scott free kick. Well headed away. Tiatto. In there was Silic, sliding it through. Lapsansky. And Koutos on Georgiadis. Good closing down work there from the Melbourne Knights. They've picked up a gear. Johnson in there ahead of Viduka. Viduka, Ardone, David Cervinski in, Silic. Georgiadis, Tiatto with a foul. It's on again for the Knights. Looking for Viduka. It's bobbling for Viduka! So close, but so far for the player of the year. 10 minutes into the second half, the Knights starting to really take a hold. Young Danny Tiatto looking for Viduka, and it fell, and he just knocked it wide. Markovski. Inside, a good one, too, for Spiteri! Just when we said that Spiteri wasn't doing much because he wasn't getting the service, he's bobbed up again. Cervinski clears. Viduka, not too far by Tiatto. Georgiadis challenged by the player of the year, Mark Viduka. Or, as some have said, the $1 million man. First player, well, he's expected to be the first Australian player to go to a European club for $1 million. He has had approaches, but he wants to play one more season in the National League and, of course, lead the young Socceroos next year. Midway through this second half of the Johnny Walker Cup final. Melbourne Knights leading 2-0. Scorers Spiteri and Horvat. A goal in either half. Georgiadis. Young Vlahos. Kovacevic stood his ground. And you just wonder what might have been for Heidelberg. Vlahos hit the crossbar 2 minutes after Spiteri scored. And Spiteri's goal came in the 32nd minute of the first half. Tiatto, and it goes behind Biskic. To give us a further update, here's Les Murray.
Andy, Michael Juric is looking at his options in the way of substitutions. Josip, who's a natural right fullback, is warming up. And the likely option at the moment is to take Vlahos off and push Georgiadis forward.
John, you'd said that you were hoping to see Georgiadis in a more attacking role. He's had to play a more defensive role the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, they've missed him, Andy, in that sense. We've only seen glimpses of him, and Heidelberg's attack does need that overlapping, that penetration down the right if they're to be more effective. It's the last card.
It certainly is, but right now it's on for Spiteri. That's the goal. The second for Joe Spiteri. They'll love him this season if he can keep this up. Spiteri makes it 3-0 with 20 minutes of normal time left. That's the cup indeed for the Melbourne Knights. The minor premiers, and of course they went down to Adelaide City in the grand final, but what a way to start their campaign.
Well, the signs have increasingly been in the second half that Melbourne Knights were taking over. And Spiteri again, who was quite earlier on. We saw the header a little earlier. Now we see this, his second goal, his first goal, a brilliant effort. And that is the ball game, Andy. There's no way Heidelberg can come back from here. And the signs are that Melbourne Knights, even though not playing as well as we know they can.
Spiteri, Scott with him. They're in there, Silic and Karapatsos. Just over 10 minutes of normal time left in the Johnny Walker Cup final. The Melbourne Knights are leading 3-0 against Heidelberg United. Again, Markovski ready for that long throw. Viduka at the near post. Up goes Viduka and Watson. Miller straight up the middle for Gnijidic to chase. Kovacevic looked over his shoulder. Was it really a good clearance? Gnijidic. Kovacevic poised at the back though. Falls favourably for Georgiadis. In comes across, too long for Karapatsos. Markovski lets it run out for the goal kick. And why wouldn't you when you're leading 3-0? That second goal, 7 minutes after the resumption, that really killed it off.
It was a killer, especially as Heidelberg in the first half, I thought, gave more than they received. And that was their period up till that goal. And since then, of course, it's been all Melbourne Knights. And they could well be more in front than what they are at this stage. But I think it's fair to say it's all over, Andy. It could take a great comeback now. But the message from tonight is that Spiteri is going to be a very welcome addition on the ball now to Melbourne Knights.
He is certainly, because he sets it up for the legend. The veteran, the 35-year-old captain, Josip Biskic, rubs further salt into the wounds of Heidelberg with an immaculate finish. The man Johnny Warren was talking about, Joe Spiteri, this time plays the role of provider on the left. They all thought it was rolling out for a goal kick. Spiteri is not a man to give up so easily. He took on Alan Scott, cut back inside, and still he got it in. Koutos thought it was out. And you'll see here, of course, the whole ball has to be over. And it was inside, and look at the finish from Biskic. 4-0 the Knights. It's been all the Knights in the second half, bar that little flurry there just before that fourth where Karapatsos was presented with a couple of opportunities. And you wonder exactly how good the Knights will be once all their injured stars are in. Scott away. Heidelberg had a great defensive record coming into the final, conceding just 2 goals in 4 cup matches. In fact, those 2 goals had come against them in the semi-finals against Sydney Olympic. But today, they're down 4-0, and Gnijidic will get booked. Kovacevic goes down. Second half substitute, 3rd player into the book. first round of the National League against Brisbane next Sunday. Heidelberg face the big derby against South Melbourne. The last game, the last derby at Middle Park. Biskic. Markovski, look at the space Silic has. Silic. Viduka, Lapsansky is onside. And, well, you can understand him wanting to go for goal. He had Viduka free inside. Of course, Viduka provided him with a touch. Here he is now, inside the Silic. The cover is there this time for Heidelberg. Six minutes of normal time remaining in the Johnny Walker Cup final. The Knights 4-0 up against Heidelberg United. Lapsansky, too much to ask really from young Danny Tiatto. Made his debut for the Knights against Brunswick. Joined them from Berlin. Tiatto. Chansky, Silic, Viduka, Viduka, Viduka! 5-0, the Knights. Who else? A score sheet is not complete unless this man's name is on it, Mark Viduka. What more can you say about this player that hasn't been said before? He's always looked the part tonight. It's 5-0 with 5 minutes left. What a second half from last season's premiers. That's a typical finish from this gifted young man. And Viduka knows that he'll get chances like that even more so once the likes of Buljubasic and Adrian Cervinski are back in action. And then also have the support of Big Andrew Marth and, of course, Diamichis. 5-0, a devastating blow for Heidelberg. They were in the game in the first half, and they had no answer for the Melbourne machine. It's Damien Vojtek having a stretch down there. He'll come on, no doubt. Get the taste of cup football. Here he is again. Here he is, Viduka! Oh, Mark Viduka second in the space of 2 minutes. 6-0 the Knights. What a victory it's turning out to be. Viduka scores his 6th goal in the cup competition. He got a hat-trick against New South Wales under-23s. He scored in the semi-finals, and he's grabbed 2 goals here. Now, this is a lesson for any youngster in the country. What a sweet finish from a, well, a great player. Silic comes on, rather Vojtek comes on as we look at another replay. Viduka. 6 goals for him in this competition. And the flag up. Biskic offside. He'll be happy he got a goal here tonight as well. Spiteri and Horvat got him on their way. Spiteri with a lovely strike in the 32nd minute of the game. Vlahos smashed a beautiful drive against the crossbar 2 minutes later. And it stayed there at 1-0 at half-time, and that machine from Melbourne, the mean machine, 5 goals in the second half. Well, it's certainly been a long time since I've seen a team dictate so powerfully. Injury time in the cup final. The Heidelberg players are probably wishing the referee will blow his whistle quickly. Viduka's free on this far left side. He wants the ball as it goes straight up for Spiteri. And it's all over. The Melbourne Knights are the Johnny Walker Cup victors here. 6-0. Viduka struck with 2 late goals in typical finishing from him. Before that, Biskic had scored. Spiteri got a double. Horvat's header, maybe the turning point, because they had took control of the game 7 minutes after the break. And what a day for the Melbourne Knights. Joy at long last here at Olympic Park in Melbourne. Zoli Pondoljak, Mirko Bazic there. Absolute joy. Let's cross now to Les Murray.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And I have a young man by the name of Spiteri standing next to me, who's one of the heroes, certainly, of the game. What a great start for you today.
Yeah, it was a great start. 2 goals. What else can you want? New team, 2 goals.
How did you feel out there? Because coming into a new team like this, they're a very celebrated team. And so it's not easy to just walk in and score a couple of goals on your debut.
I'm just happy to be playing, actually. There was a lot of trouble with my transfer fee, and I'm out there, scored the 2, and hopefully I remain in the side.
Yeah, well, I think you will be. What made the difference? Because they were very much in the game, Heidelberg, for a long period. Where do you think their back was broken?
I think when the second goal went in, and then we got the third one quickly, they just sort of, I think, threw in the towel. We just got all over the top of them.
All right, Joe, well, congratulations again. Go and get your medal, and good luck for the season. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
That's Joe Spiteri, and Johnny Warren joins us. Would you concur with that view about when the back of Heidelberg was broken?
The second goal broke their back. Up till then, Heidelberg well in it. I felt up till half-time they had, on a points basis anyhow, they had more of the game, but it wasn't to be. And it does indicate that Melbourne Knights are one of the teams to beat, because to me they still didn't play as well as they can tonight and ended up winning by 6. And young Joe is going to be a great addition to their squad in a striking sense. And the other thing is that they've got so many players out tonight that they do have the depth to be one of the teams to beat again this year.
Indeed. Okay, John, thanks very much for your help tonight. And that's the Johnny Walker Cup final for 1994. Don't forget, the league season begins next Sunday with our first match of the day from the league season, and that'll be Sydney Olympic versus West Adelaide from Sydney. So make sure you join us at 7:30 every Sunday evening for that. But for the moment, it's congratulations to the Melbourne Knights, and it's good night from Olympic Park.